A playwright wrote a play about a serial killer who remained undetected for 30 years. Actor Michael accepted the lead role. After a month of rehearsals, he began acting strangely, disappearing at night, returning in dirty clothes, and scratches appeared on his hands. One day, the police showed up at a rehearsal. They were looking for a killer whose signature matched the actor's nocturnal actions. Michael was talented. He was considered a rising star, predicted to have a brilliant future. He acted in films and theater, but he dreamed of a real, challenging role. When playwright Simon Black offered him the lead role in his new play, Shadow, Michael accepted without even reading the script. He read it overnight and knew this was his chance. The play told the story of a serial killer nicknamed the Whisperer. He killed his victims quietly, without screaming, whispering in their ears. The police searched for him for 30 years, but they never found him. At the end of the play, the killer was dying of old age in his bed, surrounded by his victims, or rather, their ghosts. The director demanded total immersion. He told Michael, "You must become him. Not act, but be him." Every second, every night. Michael moved into his own apartment, stopped hanging out with his friends, and stopped answering his phone. He read books about serial killers, watched documentaries, and studied their gait, gestures, and glances. After 2 weeks, he noticed he had started talking to himself. In the voice of the Whisperer. Friends stopped calling. His girlfriend, Laura, left, saying he had become a stranger. Michael wasn't upset. He felt the role filling him like dark water. And he liked it. One night, he woke up cold. He was lying on his bed in his usual clothes, shoes, and a jacket. He didn't remember going to bed. It was 3 in the morning. There was dirt on his sleeve, and a dark, earth-like substance under his fingernails. He didn't notice. The next day, the news reported that a woman's body had been found in the park. The killer had strangled her and whispered something in her ear. The police weren't releasing any details. Michael watched the news and felt a strange chill. He tried to remember where he had been the night before, but couldn't. 3 days later, another woman disappeared. She was found in the basement of an old house. A smile was frozen on her face. Reporters said, "It looks like the work of a serial killer who operated 30 years ago." Could he have returned? Michael turned off the television. His hands were shaking. He went into the bathroom and looked in the mirror. His eyes were alien. Empty. He smiled. The smile wasn't his. At rehearsal, he acted so well that the director applauded. The actors were afraid to look him in the eye. One day, a scene partner said, "Michael, you're scaring me. I don't know if you're joking or not." He didn't answer. He looked at her and wondered what she would look like dead. That evening, he drove home. A gray car was following him. Michael spotted it in the mirror, accelerated, and turned into an alley. The car kept up. He stopped and got out. 2 men in civilian clothes emerged from the car. "Michael Turner?" someone asked. "Yes. You're under arrest on suspicion of serial murder." Michael laughed. But it wasn't his own laugh. At the station, they showed him a photograph. The CCTV footage showed a man in a dark coat wandering the streets. His face was invisible, but his gait, his gestures, everything was his. Michael looked and couldn't believe his eyes. "It wasn't me," he said. "We checked your fingerprints at the crime scene. They match." Michael fell silent. He suddenly remembered the night he'd woken up in dirty clothes. He remembered the dirt under his fingernails. He remembered the voice in his head. The Whisperer's voice. It whispered, "You're doing great. One more. One more." Michael closed his eyes. He realized the role had consumed him. Or maybe he'd always been like this. He just didn't know. Michael was released 2 days later. The lawyer claimed that fingerprints could have gotten to the crime scene by accident. Michael was in the area scouting filming locations. But the investigator, as he was leaving, said, "We're watching you. Don't leave the house tonight." Michael returned to the apartment. It was dark inside, though he'd left the light on. He turned on the lamp. The script lay on the table, open to the last scene, where the killer dies. But someone had written in pencil, "The actor dies in his place." Michael tore out the page and burned it. He called the director. "I'm leaving the play," he said. "You can't. The premiere is in 3 days. Tickets are sold out. This is your moment." "I don't need a moment. I want to stay sane." "Too late," the director replied and hung up. Michael didn't sleep that night. He sat in a chair, looking out the window, and saw a shadow flicker behind the glass. It was standing on the balcony. He went outside. No one was there. But there was a handprint on the railing. Someone's. Large, with long fingers. The next night, he heard a whisper. A voice coming from the ventilation shafts. The same voice he used during rehearsals. The voice of the whisperer. "You play well," the voice whispered. "But I play better. I've played this role for 30 years. Now it's my turn to rest. You will take my place." "Who are you?" Michael asked. "I'm who you pretend to be. I'm real. You're just an actor. But you tried so hard that you became me. Thank you. Now I'm free." Michael screamed. He ran out of the apartment, got into the car, and drove to the director's office. The door was open. No one was inside. On the table lay the script, and on it a knife. A fake one. But the blade was real. Michael wanted to leave, but his legs wouldn't obey him. A voice in his head said, "Take this. You'll need it. The premiere is tomorrow. You're going on stage. You're going to kill her. You know who." Michael realized who he was talking about. His scene partner, Emma. The one who said he scared her. She was playing the final victim. According to the script, the killer strangled her at the end. But for real. Michael wanted to warn her, but he couldn't. His body wouldn't obey. He got in the car, drove home, and went to bed. He couldn't sleep. The words kept running through his head. "You'll kill her. You'll kill her. You'll kill her." The next day, he went to the theater. The makeup artist was applying his makeup. She said, "Your eyes have changed. They've become darker." Michael didn't answer. He looked in the mirror and didn't see himself. He saw someone else. Thin-lipped, sharp-chinned. Whispering. He put on the costume. He grabbed the knife. A prop? He didn't know. The show began. Michael acted like never before. The audience applauded after each scene. At the end, he remained on stage with Emma. According to the script, she was supposed to fall, and he was supposed to whisper the last words in her ear. He approached her. He held the knife to her throat. Emma smiled playfully. And he whispered, "This isn't an act." She looked into his eyes and understood. She screamed. The audience thought it was planned. The curtain fell. Michael let go of her. The knife fell to the floor. A fake one. He couldn't do it. Something stopped him. A voice in his head screamed, "Coward." And then it died down. Michael fell to his knees. Emma hugged him. She was crying. He was too. The police were waiting for him backstage. Someone had called them. Michael was taken to a psychiatric hospital. Diagnosis: dissociative identity disorder. He didn't remember what he did that night. He didn't remember the murders. But the fingerprints were his. The court sentenced him to compulsory treatment. He sat in his room, looking out the window. Sometimes he heard a voice. The same voice. Whispering. It said, "Don't worry. I haven't gone anywhere. I'm waiting. When you come out, we'll continue. The show's not over yet." Michael closed his eyes and saw the stage. A full house. Applause. He was bowing. And in the front row, on a chair, sat himself. The one he was playing. He was smiling and applauding. Louder than anyone else. Michael spent 2 years in the clinic. Doctors declared him healthy. The Whisperer personality no longer manifested itself. Michael was discharged. He returned to an empty apartment, where everything smelled of dust and forgotten life. On the table lay the script. The very same one. He wanted to burn it, but he couldn't. Something held him back. He got a small role in the theater. Without words. He walked on stage, stood in the corner, died in the third act. He didn't need to speak. He was happy. But sometimes, when the audience fell silent, he imagined someone sitting in the front row, in that very chair. He didn't look. He was afraid. A month later, playwright Simon Black called him. The same one who wrote the play Shadow. He said, "I'm writing a sequel. I'm offering you the lead role." Michael refused. Simon insisted, "This isn't the role of a maniac. It's the role of a victim. You just lie in a coffin for the entire play. Not a word, not a movement." Michael thought about it and agreed. Rehearsals began. Michael lay in the coffin with his eyes closed. He heard the voices of the other actors, the director's applause. All was peaceful. But on the 5th night after rehearsals began, he woke up in makeup. He didn't go to bed with it on. He went to the mirror. His face was covered in the makeup of the man he'd played before. The Whisperer. He washed it off. But the next morning, the makeup was back. It wouldn't wash off. The doctors said it was psychosomatic. Michael couldn't believe it. He knew who was doing it. The night before the premiere, he didn't sleep. He sat on stage, in the coffin. He looked at the audience. There, in the front row, sat a man. Tall, thin, dressed in black. His face was invisible. Michael stood up and walked to the footlights. "You came," he said. "I'm always here," replied a voice from the darkness. "You didn't get rid of me. You just locked me in the basement. But I got out. Tonight's the premiere. You'll play the victim. And I'll play the killer. In the auditorium." Michael wanted to call security, but he couldn't. His body wouldn't obey him again. He lay down in the coffin. He closed his eyes. The performance began. He heard the actors' footsteps, their voices. And then, screams. Real screams. The audience screamed. Michael opened his eyes. The lights were on in the auditorium. On the floor, in the aisle, lay a body. A man in black. His face was covered by a mask. Michael walked over and removed the mask. Underneath was his face. The same face he'd seen in the mirror. The face of the Whisperer. The police cordoned off the theater. Michael was arrested again. He didn't resist. He knew it was the end. During interrogation, he said, "I didn't kill. It was him. He was always inside me. Now he's free. You caught his body. But he's still inside." He was declared insane. He was sent to a clinic for lifelong treatment. In his ward, he sat in the corner and stared at the wall. Sometimes he smiled. The orderly said he was talking to himself. But Michael wasn't talking to himself. He was talking to the one living in his head. And it responded. On the day the theater closed after the tragedy, the lights came on in the building. A security guard saw a figure on stage. A man in black stood by a coffin, bowing to the empty auditorium. He applauded himself. And then he disappeared. A year later, people began disappearing again in the city. The police searched for the killer, but couldn't find him. The pattern was the same, a whisper, a smile on the victim's face. The Whisperer had returned. Or perhaps he had never left. Michael watched the news in his hospital room and smiled. He knew. He always knew.